Hola.
Hello, Evelyn?
Oh, thanks God. Yeah,
Hi, I can hear you. Are you on your computer?
finally.
Oh, it worked? Good. Okay, so this week you guys talked about investigational product, right? Or watch modules on that. Do you guys have any questions from this week's module about IP or?
About deviation.
Okay,
Um,
hold on 1 second. I need to mute some people because I hear them in the background. Hold on 1 second.
yeah,
Okay, go ahead, Evelyn.
I know that not all deviations has to be notified to the IRB, right?
Yeah, it just depends
So
on the IRB, it depends on the study, it depends on the sponsor.
yeah, it depends. Well, for instance, do you have an example for when it has to be notified when the patient goes to the hospital or whether it has any, for instance, complication after that, or when the patient die, or when we consider that it has to be notified to the IRB?
Well, it really just depends on the IRB because every IRB has their own rules and regulations as to what they collect. So there's hundreds of different IRBs. There's Western IRB, Shulman IRB, there's Copernicus IRB, there's all different types. I mean, all the same. They have the same rules and regulations as far as when it comes to FDA. But as far as the things that they want to collect and document, they may just want to collect deviation. I mean, they may just want to collect violations over deviations. Violations are major things like patient didn't sign an informed consent, and there were already study-related procedures performed on this patient. Like that's an example of something that could be reported to the IRB because that's a major violation. But if there's something like a deviation, like the patient missed, their study window, let's say that they have day 1 and then you have visit 1 is on day 1 and then visit 2 is on day 3 or whatever, and it's plus, or let's say it's day 7 and it's plus or minus 2 days and they didn't have their visit in the window that they're supposed to have it, and they come like a day after outside the window, like the IRB is may not want that information. They just may want the major occurrences, not like the minor ones, because that's not really a big deal. You just document it and say why this patient came out of window. But as long as that patient is being monitored and being watched over by the PI, and that's why PI oversight is so important, then the most you can do is just document it. But if that's a repeated problem and a issue, then that may be something that needs to be escalated. But it really just depends on the IRB at the end of the day, because they have their own policies.
Got it.
So the
Another.
FDA regulates the FDA regulates the CROs, PIs, sponsors, and IRBs. That's in the Code of Federal Regulations, part of the training that you guys did.
Okay. Another question: when the is missed, any mission that is missed. So when you notice that, but for instance, if the PI has to sign something and the PI didn't sign, so when you notice that and you let them know that the PI has to sign and the PI sign again, or I mean sign with what he didn't sign before, has to write down the day that exactly the day that he's signing, or how can it, because it should be signed in the day that it has to be.
Wait, what example are you using again? What is he signing?
Missing data, for instance, if you notice that something is missed when it has to be, let's suppose in the first week, and you notice that in the 4th week or 5th week, how can they fix it, or how can you make them fix it if they miss any source or any
Oh,
data from?
so you're saying if you're monitoring a site, how do they fix a correction something that happened in the past
Something that
in
is
the
missed?
source?
The source of, yeah.
Okay, so when you're on site and you're monitoring data and you're looking at, you know, like a blood pressure or vital sign or something like that, or something in the physical exam, and you notice a mistake, so and it's like a numerical issue, or something that's like obvious, like they just wrote the wrong number or something like that, then what you would have them do, that's why you have to line through initial and date and then correct it. So when you make mistakes in the source, it has to be legible. You can't scratch it out. You can't use any whiteout. You can't, you can't you can't scratch through it. It has to be visible. And in order to correct a mistake, you make one line through the issue. Like if it's off by a number and a number is wrong and you want to correct that one number, you line through that number, you initial it and date it right above the line. The date that you corrected that number, not the date that you wrote that incorrect information. So you instruct the study coordinator to do that on the source, not you. You don't write on the source. You just monitor the source, and you notate, you take notes on their mistakes on your monitoring log that you keep while you're on site.
If they didn't, just an example, if they didn't take the blood pressure, for instance, of the subject at the beginning,
Then that's a deviation. That's
that's my question. They cannot take the blood pressure later and put it in that day
No,
that should.
no, because that's not contemporaneous. Remember Alcoa? Alcoa is attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. So what contemporaneous means that you have to do it at the time that it's happening. That doesn't mean you can't backdate things, because that's how fraudulent data is made up. That's basically, making up data, because it's not done on the date that it says that it's done on the source. That's why you have all the initials and the headers and the dates, so you can logically go through the source and make sense of what is actually happening at that day and time during that visit. So if they miss it in the past, then that's just a deviation that you would document. And then according to your clinical monitoring plan or your study team or whatever you're assigned to, whatever study team you're assigned to, that they'll tell you the instructions on how to document your deviations, which is basically this, you just document exactly what it is. If it has something to do with the patient, of course, you would document the patient number, the date of the visit, what it actually is. Just be very descriptive in the source, and, document what happened, what didn't happen, what was supposed to happen, how to correct it. If you retrain the site, you document all those things, and then sometimes those things are filed in the trial master file, or sometimes they're just documented in the study files. And, depending on which company you're with, you'll have your instructions on what to do and how to manage deviations. To answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there any other questions about this week?
Hi, Ms. Jeanette. I had a question that's a little off from what we actually are doing. Is it possible, this is just a general question, is it possible for like if you are in a, what do you call it now? If you are in a site, like you are one of the people who's supposed to be monitoring, is it possible for the company, like if there's a what do you call it? I'm trying to put the words together. One of the visits, like, can you be a volunteer for one of your own monitoring sites? Even if, okay, what if you are not maybe a monitor for that, like for the site? Maybe your company but another research. Is it possible, or they want to do it?
So if you were to go to a doctor who is doing a trial with the company that you work for, and you're a monitor, but you're not monitoring the trial that he's recruiting for. I
Yeah.
think I don't know. To be honest, I can't answer that question. I know that
Okay.
sometimes in exclusion criteria of a lot of protocols, it says that PIs or family members of the PI can't be involved in
Yeah.
the study. So when it comes to the monitor, I don't see how that could be an issue because, first of all, when you enroll in a trial, it's confidential, and as long as your doctor is the principal investigator, I mean, you're protected. Your information is protected. It's not about your company finding out, but I don't see how that could be a conflict of interest, but don't quote me on that because I never really considered that. I never really thought about that question ever. But it's a good question. But let me do a little bit more research for you on that. Can you email me that so I can look at my email and then it can remind me?
No problem.
Because that's just what I think, but I'm not firm on that. I don't really know that. But I just know for sure that in the exclusion criteria, some pharmaceutical companies put, oh, the PI cannot participate, or anyone who's a staff member on that study, of course, or any family members or anyone who works in that office, because of blinding issues. Because if it's a double-blind study and you have someone who's like closely associated with the study, they can be unblinded.
Conflict of interest, I'm thinking.
Conflict of interest, and they could potentially be unblinded, which will, mess up the results of the study too. But yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So today, I'm going to go over some interview questions with you guys and show you guys, and this link I can email to you guys. I just found this on Google, but it's basically interview questions. And also this presentation talks about interview questions for CRAs. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this one. So these websites are just like, top 10 clinical research interview questions and answers. These are just useful websites to help you prepare and practice and think of scenarios and situations that could possibly come up in an interview. So the first question is, they may ask you, why do you want this clinical research associate job? And companies hire people who are passionate about their job, so you should have a great answer about why you want to be in the position, and identify, a couple of key factors that make the role a great fit for you. And all of these responses are just general responses that you can use in basically any interview, but the questions are tailored to clinical research, to the clinical research role. So, you want to first identify a few key factors that make the role a great fit for you, then share why you love the company, and go into, they can ask you, what have you learned from the mistakes on the clinical research job? And, even though if you haven't had experience as a clinical research associate, you have had past experiences in just, your work experience. So when they ask you these types of questions, depending on, what kind of setting you're in, if you have a research background and you may, after this course or after this program is over, you may be able to get a CRA job if you have research background. But if you don't, you may be interviewing for a different type of position, or, maybe on your way to being a CRA. There's a lot of things that you could be doing, like clinical trial assistant, clinical trial specialist. This program will hopefully get your foot in the door, but you want to tailor your responses to what you're able to do and what you're able to talk about at the time. So candidates without specific examples do not seem credible. However, the examples should be fairly inconsequential and intentional, and a learned lesson should be gleaned from it. Moving ahead without group assistance while assigned to a group project meant to be collaborative is a good example. And again, these questions will be posted on Interlinks. And what challenges are you looking for in this clinical research associate position? So a typical interview question to determine what you're looking for in the next job and whether it will be a good fit for the position being hired for, or what are the challenges. The best way to answer the questions about challenges you are seeking is to discuss how you would like to be able to effectively utilize your skills and experience if you are hired for the job. So you want to be able to, from wherever background you come from, I don't know everyone's background, but you want to be able to talk about whatever skills that you think are the most transferable. So you guys know what a clinical research associate does. You know the job description. If you don't, I can send it to you, and you can also Google it. You can look it up. You know what CRAs do. All CRA job descriptions are generally the same between sponsors and CROs. So you can look at the job description and look at your resume and your background and compare what you've done to what you want to do and focus on those things in your interview. That's going to be your selling point because, everyone has different backgrounds. Everyone has different, degrees in different areas. When it really comes down to an interview, to being a CRA, you want to talk about the transferable skills. And if you have research experience, that just makes it better. Okay. So you can mention that you're motivated by challenges, to have the ability to effectively meet challenges, have the flexibility and job and skills to necessary to handle a challenging job. You can continue by describing specific examples of challenges you have met and goals you have achieved in the past. Maybe they may ask you to describe a typical work week for clinical research position. Interviewers expect a candidate for employment to discuss what they do while they are working. Before you answer, consider the position you're applying for and how your current or past positions relate to it. The more you can connect the past experience with the job opening, the more successful you'll be at answering the questions. So like I said, know where you're coming from and know what you want to do. So those are the slides, those are the few questions that I wanted to go over with you. And then these questions are pretty general. And these questions you will probably experience in every interview, not just the CRA. So generally they do start off with, tell me about yourself. They want to know what you know about their company that you're applying to. Tell me what you know about us, what sets you apart from other people that may apply for this job. You want to talk about your strengths. You want to be able to describe the position you're applying for, why you're interested in the position as a CRA, what aspects of the position makes you most uncomfortable. Like I said, every question or every interview is going to be tailored to what background you have. So if you have an entry-level CRA position or a CRA interview, the questions in your interview are going to be tailored to you to be entry-level. They're not going to expect for you to have 8 years of CRA experience if you're an entry-level CRA. They're not going to expect you to have any experience. But if you have a CRA 2 position, then they're going to tailor the questions around what a CRA 2 would do. What's the biggest success you've had in your last job? What's the biggest failure you had in your last job? Tell me about tell me about the best supervisor you've ever had or the worst. They like to ask you questions. These are basically behavioral and situational questions. And they want to ask you questions like, how do you resolve conflict? And, tell me about the most difficult project you ever faced. What do you see as important trends in the future in this area? Have you done anything in the last year to learn new things and improve yourself in relation to the requirements of this job? So that's you guys taking the CRA Academy course. You're doing your training to, further your chances of obtaining a CRA role. And they're going to want to know about your current position. So these questions will be posted on Interlinks, and I'll let you guys go over these. Also,
I have a quick question, Missionary. You mentioned, if you were actually asked if you had maybe you was supervisor, I mean, what is the best explanation to give to them that you've never had any, or are you gonna try to cook up something, like even if you have that experience, would you try to say something about it, or just don't say anything? What is your best advice for us?
If you don't have any CRA, if you have a CRA interview and you don't have any CRA experience, is that what the question was?
No, not what if you don't have any experience. If you actually, if you do have experience and you've had like a bad supervisor.
Yes. I mean, your goal is to, the reason why they ask that question is they want to see how you handle difficult situations. And so your response to them is, indicative of how you would react in the situation if you were getting into that situation, with their company, if you were to happen to have a bad, supervisor at their company. So I would honestly answer it and just, talk about it in a way that makes you look successful in the end, because it is your interview. So it's not about, having a bad manager or having a bad situation. I mean, that happens. That's pretty common. So, I don't know. I would honestly answer the question.
But don't hide it.
No, don't hide it, because they're asking you for a reason, because they understand that if you've worked before, anything can happen in the work area. You can have, I don't know. I've had some pretty bad managers in the past, but I've just learned how to be just a team player and just focus on whatever the objective is and whatever job I had to do. You know what I mean? So I think eventually at the point of that question is that's what they want. That's what they want you to, that's what they want to see, is how did you overcome the situation? Did you let it affect your job? Like, how did you do your job anyway, regardless of how bad the hand you were dealt? You know what I mean? And when it comes to having a bad boss or someone who is micromanager and you're not used to micromanaging style. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it can be anything that is difficult, to you.
Okay.
So yeah, I would honestly answer that, because they want to get to know you too. In interviews, it's like a conversation. It's an interview. They're going to be asking you questions, but the more of a conversation you make it, the better it is, because it's just easier that way. I don't know. I try to focus on that anyway when I'm interviewing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and then I'm also going to post some slides on how to, answer these questions in what format. There's actually a format called the STAR format. And STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. And it basically means that when you answer any behavioral questions, any of the questions that I just went over, that'll be posted on Interlinks. Whenever they ask you a behavioral or situational question, the response that you should have should be in a STAR format. You should describe the situation first. You should set it up. Tell them depending on the question, you set it up in a situation, you describe the task that you had to do to complete your job, or to complete whatever it is that you had to do, or to, strategize to overcome a difficult situation, whatever you had to do to perform the task. That's what you talk about. And the action, which you actually did, and you discuss that and how you went to execute whatever your tasks were, and then you discuss the results. And in my opinion, what I always try to do is I always describe my star, my answer, my star format. And in the end, in my results, I always try to use the most positive examples ever. I don't ever use an example to where something, in the end it showed that I wasn't at my best, or I failed the objective, or I failed the goal. I always end with a good result. So, situation, task, action, result, and make sure it's always a good result. Okay. So that's all I have today. I'm going to post all these things on Intralinks. So I'm going to open up the line and ask if you guys have any more questions before I end this meeting.
Commissioner, I actually sent you the ICH, the certificates for the 3 assignments that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I know you actually sent me back a reply that I know it's not due till the end of the class, but is it possible? Do you want us to give you, do you want us to send everything? Because I know you wanted us to do the acronyms, you wanted us to do the meanings and stuff in Excel sheet. Do you want us to send you everything at once, or just send it periodically?
I have a checklist of everyone's name and everyone's document, so I'm just gonna go through. I've been going through my emails and keeping a tally so you can send it together. It's just due by the end of the course, so you can send it together or you can send it separate. It's up to you.
Okay.
Because I have a list over here that I'm keeping for everybody, so I'll know who doesn't send what or who does. So I'll leave it up to you.
So I know as this class is actually going, we're going to be having mock questions, like the interview questions and stuff. Do we, apart from the exam that we have for 1 week, is there any criteria of we doing a one-on-one with you? Like, if we do have questions, do you answer, or is there going to be a section of the class, maybe on a Saturday, like a regular scheduled class, that we can maybe call in and ask you questions and stuff like that? I don't know.
Oh no. So what's going to happen is we're going to be doing modules the next 4 weeks, and the modules are not posted yet, but they'll be posted tomorrow. So I'm going to send an email out to everyone to check Intralinks, but for instructions for the modules that you're going to be doing for the next 4 weeks. And we'll still have class on Saturdays at 1.
So the modules that you're actually going to be sending is things that we're going to be talking on, like we're going to be talking on them every time we're coming for the classes, right?
Yes. Yeah, for week 9, 10, 11, and 12, you're going to be doing 4 modules, 4 monitoring scenarios.
Oh, okay. And that was the one you actually wanted us to do and I think send back to you, or is it going to be during the class that we're going to give you the answers?
No, you're going to send your answers to me before class. But they'll be posted tomorrow, so you'll have 7 days to do them.
Okay, makes sense.
So we're going to send an email out to everyone with their usernames and passwords and the link to the EDC system, and then we're going to send you, I'm also going to send you a notification of when I post it up to Intralinks. So you can print the patient chart and the source documents, and then you'll have your username and password for the EDC, and then there'll be instructions on how you should monitor, and you need to find the mistakes and be ready to discuss them on week 9 webinar.
So, Chanel.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Is it okay to start, yeah, I can hear you. Is it okay to start doing our resume, start from now, or do we have to wait, till the end of the class? What do you think?
Wait, say it again, your resume?
Yeah, can we start sending out, because when you apply for a job, it's not certain that you can get a job within a month.
Well,
sometimes some companies take like a month or 2 months.
That's fine. When you send it out, if you want to send out your resume, I would just put on there that you started the CRA Academy course in March. Was it March? No, April. So you
Yeah,
can put
March.
April. Oh, March.
No,
Okay, so you can put April. You can put
March.
April 2016. I mean March. You can put March 2016 to current or to present or something like that. Just don't put an end date. And so when you actually finish, then put an end date. So you can put on there on your resume that you are currently attending the CRA Academy. Or you can just
Okay.
put expected certificate on June 2016. It's up to you. But yeah, I think it's okay to go ahead and do that because
Okay.
we're more than
I know I
happy.
spoke with Dan one time. I think I spoke with Dan about his resume because I think probably the HR might want to look into the resume before we start sending it out. I think I'm gonna call Dan. Probably he might have something to say or do because I know he asked me to send my resume in.
Okay, yeah, send it to me because
Okay.
when you guys are done, I'm gonna be able to send it to the recruiters that I know and try my best to get you guys a CRA position, but we can't make any guarantees, but we can try. And then if it doesn't work out, we can get you guys feedback on how you can, get a CRA job or, find something that's suitable for where you're at in your career. Because some people have research experience and some people don't. And that makes a difference. And the academy helps anyway, so.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yes.
Yeah, the academy helps.
So when you actually put in that you've been in the academy, that actually boosts. Does it actually boost?
Well, it's up to you. Like I said, that's fine. It is, but it's up to you. Like I said, it depends on your background. It depends on how much work experience you have. It depends on how much research experience you have. It depends on how you interview. It depends on how you answer the questions, and that's why we're going over this today. It depends on a lot of things, and the fact that you went to the academy.
Can somebody actually mute, please?
Hold on one second. Okay, Evelyn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm saying is the academy helps for your CRA training, but everything together, your background, your degree, the work experience that you have, how you interview, how you answer the questions, and what type of interview you actually have, because there are different types of CRA interviews. There are entry-level CRA interviews. There's study coordinator, interviews for people who are study coordinators who want to be CRAs. There are, people who are interviewing for senior CRA roles. So all the interviews are, different. So it just depends on where you are and how you interview and how you present yourself in the interview and what kind of background you have and whether or not you have research experience. Because there's a lot of different ways to become a CRA. But the more research experience you have, and if you have this program, you have better chances of becoming a CRA, but there are no guarantees at all. But with the recruiters that I know, I can try my best to get you guys at least something in the clinical research industry. It is hard to say because I don't know anyone's resume.
Hello, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
I've actually heard that the interviews are pretty tedious. I mean, so how many, if you're looking at a CRA one, can you let us know, how many, interviews are you going to have, maybe 3 interviews, intense interviews, or is it going to be, 5 of them?
Every interview is different. It's hard to say because there are hundreds of CROs and there's hundreds of pharmaceutical companies, and they all get different ways of interviewing. So it's kind of hard to say what is going to happen for a CRA1 interview. I can't tell you that, but if you're a CRA1 and you have 0 years of experience, they're not going to ask you to recall on experiences of you being a CRA because they know that you've never done it before. So they're going to ask, okay, well, tell me about your study coordinator position, or tell me about what other research position. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to ask you behavioral questions, maybe not specifically to the CRA role, but they're going to ask you general behavioral questions, and you're going to have to answer those questions with the information and with the experience that you have. So now if you're interviewing for a senior CRA position, so how many questions, I don't really know, but the process is usually this. If there is a position, let's say you find a position online, or let's say a recruiter calls you, they review your resume, they do a phone screen. This is typically every company. Recruiters, CROs, pharmaceutical companies, they usually start with a phone screen. They'll review your resume with you, ask you a few questions to verify what they have in front of them. And then if it's a recruiter, they'll call the CRO, they'll call the sponsor and say, this is a good candidate for this position. You should schedule an interview. And if they schedule an interview, then the interview, they may, I remember a long time ago, they flew me to North Carolina for a face-to-face interview. And I've also been flown to Kansas. So they used to fly people places, but they don't really do that anymore. They do more of Skype interviews or webinars or WebEx interviews, kind of like what we do every Saturday at 1. And they do it through the computer. So, and then usually it may be one person, it may be two. I've been on interviews where I've just interviewed with 2 people and via WebEx, and it was 1 hour with one person and 1 hour with another person, and then that was it. And then some I've had 3 interviews, and some I've only had 1 interview, 1 phone interview. So every company has their own way of interviewing. So how many years of experience? I have all different types of contacts. It just depends on the role that you want. When it comes to CRA, the minimum, when it comes to CRA, I mean, I get calls for CRA1, CRA2, senior CRA. I get recruiters that have all types of positions. So they range from 0 experience all the way to 5 years experience. Joyce, does that answer your question? There isn't a typical number because all recruiters recruit for CROs and pharmaceutical companies in all positions. So it may be a clinical trial assistant position or a clinical trial coordinator position or a study coordinator, position that's for the CRO or the sponsor.
So, Shania.
Hi.
Yeah. Why is it there's a lot of demand for oncology?
Why is there a lot of demand for oncology? Because you have to be for CRAs.
Yeah.
Because there's a shortage in skills when it comes to oncology, because oncology is just a different breed when it comes to the complexity and the details that you have to pay attention to when monitoring cancer. It's way difficult to, when it comes to diagnosing and treating cancer, which do you think is harder, a cold or cancer? Right. You know what I mean? So same thing with monitoring. You need to know how to understand RECIST, which is response evaluation, tumor staging system. It basically shows you how to measure a tumor, and it shows you what's measurable, what's non-measurable. There's a lot of guidelines when it comes to measuring tumors, and then there are also oncology studies have a lot more SAEs, they have a lot more AEs, they have a lot more hospitalizations, a lot more deaths than most trials. They're way more intense, and they don't have as many patients. They don't have a ton of high enrolling studies, just because, these cancer studies are very specific in their inclusion and exclusion criteria. Sometimes the protocols could be like 200 pages. It's just there's a high demand because there's a shortage, because there's a lot more you need to know when it comes to dealing with general therapeutics like diabetes, hypertension, even chronic kidney disease. I mean, there's a point where, there are some diseases that get really, really bad, but when you have cancer, it's completely different. Like, you can't test any chemotherapy in a patient that it's completely healthy. That's not ethical. You can't test cancer drugs in someone that's a healthy human subject, because it's too harsh for the body. That's not ethical to do that. Whereas you have phase 1 studies for all the other general therapeutic areas. Whereas phase 1 in oncology starts with actual cancer patients. Okay. Hello?
Hey, Shane.
Hi.
Yeah. Can you throw more light about this? I stumbled on this room 1, room 2, room 3. It kept changing, but room 3, this evidence-based criteria to classify studies. Do we need to worry about that?
Wait, what is it?
I stumbled on this room 1, ROMA.
Can you send it to me in an email so I can see it?
Can I write it, or what is it?
Can you send it to me in an email so I can see it?
Yes. And I have a suggestion about the email thing. Is there a way you can probably forward the answers to those questions to everybody so that we can share whatever, um, questions they might be asking if it is related to the study?
Yeah, I have the questions. They're going to be posted on Intralinks. So we can have,
Yeah,
so
I
do you have
understand what I'm
more
saying.
questions about the interviews and what kind of, and how, you mean how to answer them?
No, what I'm saying, people ask you question and you tell them to send you email. So what I'm saying is, if there are questions that is related to the studies, if there's a way you can just, so that everybody can benefit from it. Like this one, I'll be sending you. I'll be
Oh, I
sending you a
see what you're
question, but when
saying.
you answer
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, I'm going to try. I think we have I've been trying to start a frequently asked questions Excel sheet. So yeah, I'll start putting all the questions together in a group, and I'll just update the log on Intralinks. That way everyone can have the question and the answer.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Well, sorry about today. So, next week we're going to be discussing the monitoring scenarios. So I'll post those tomorrow, and I'll send a notification out to you guys, and plus also look out for your usernames and passwords for the EDC system. All right. Thank you. I'll speak with you guys next week.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shanae.
Thank you.